ultimately thrive. Next slide. The SBDCs offer one-on-one advising with an experienced business advisor for as long as the assistance is needed. All meetings are confidential, and as mentioned, we produce workshops and we work closely with your local chambers of commerce to pick the topics for the small business community. Next slide. The SBDCs offer our services for free because we are sponsored by the Small Business Administration, the SBA, and the California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, GoBiz. We are measured by the number of businesses we help start, jobs created, increase in sales, and how much capital we help businesses obtain. Your success is our success, and that's how we get paid. But enough about the SBDCs. Next slide, please. Let's get started today with today's topic of DBE certification. I'd like to introduce Matthew Alex. The goal for this 4-week training series is to get you solicitation ready. What I mean is that through our weekly topics and with one-on-one business advising, we can get your small businesses ready to contract with public agencies and have the right tools to look for the opportunities that are available for you. In fact, stay to the end. We have a couple of events where agencies like Sac Airport, San Joaquin Rail, and Caltrans will be participating. We always want to have interaction with our audience, so please, questions are welcome. Use the Q&A box. And if you have anything useful, use the chat and share with us who you are, where you're from, and we'll share our contact information in the chat box as well. Today's training is being recorded, and a copy of the recording and the slides will be emailed to you after the session. So again, this is Matthew Alex, president of the Alex Group. Matthew, would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you?
Thank you very much, Kenji. I really appreciate it. And good afternoon. It's getting close to afternoon, I say. It's still morning. To all of you who are joined in today to participate in this first kickoff training series of a 4-week training program focusing on preparing small businesses to be contract ready to work with transportation agencies here in the Northern California area. As stated, my name is Matthew Alex. I'm the president of the Alex Group. My background, really short and simple. I am a prior military engineer officer in the United States Army. I'm a mechanical engineer by degree. When I got out of the military, I have held several jobs, including working with the federal government, with the Corps of Engineers, being a contracting officer, senior project manager, program director, and on multiple projects within the government as well as in private industry. I took an interest while I was in the government in looking at and helping and promote small businesses within the agency and other agencies, and to continue to extend on and finding ways in which to get small businesses in front of the government agencies in order to have an opportunity to receive contracts. And first up was, the question was always, what do we need? You know, where do we go? How do we prepare? And so some of that became part of what my business started to do. Besides doing construction and project management, we work alongside small businesses, helping them to understand the processes and helping them to maneuver in this system to be able to be contract ready and to be successful at what they're doing, and looking at every aspect of the business. So that's what brings us here today. And we've been invited, which we appreciate very much, by the NorCal SBDC systems to provide this training. I will be with you guys if you continue to attend all of the sessions all week as the lead trainer. So today our focus is on DBE certification program overview. Next slide. So the presentation outline is going to focus on a number of items. DBE, DBE program, going to give a little discussion about what that is. DBE, by the way, stands for Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and DBE is Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. So agency roles and responsibilities, qualifications and requirements, how do you apply, benefits of being a DBE certified firm, and main participation requirements for you as a firm. Next slide. So the DBE Enterprise Program, of course, was developed by the Department of Transportation to assist in trying to level the playing field where you had disadvantaged businesses who felt that they were not getting a fair share of the contract opportunities within the different agencies, especially within transportation. And this program allows those small business firms who fall into those categories to participate. Next slide. The DBE program size standard. First thing you want to know is that if you're looking to apply for your DBE certification, which is an extenuous process, but it's a process that can be dealt with pretty easy if you know what you're doing and if you get the support, because SBDC can help you with applying for the application, going through the application process and becoming certified. But some of the questions that you need to know is that the final rule issued in December 14, 2020 provides that the Department of Transportation, they take a look at, things on the inflationary adjustments. And this is what they look at, trying to establish a correct business size standard and gross receipts for each businesses. And this was effective in March the 1st, 2023. Business size limit for applicant and certified applicants seeking participation in the program. And it's based off of what they call the Northern Administration Classification Industrial System, NACES codes. Next slide, please. So one of the things we want to look at and we want to talk about is the agency roles. What is the agency roles? Well, the agency, number one, they're the entity that's going to certify the eligibility of a DBE firm. So that is the agency in which you're going to provide your information with, and we'll talk about who some of those agencies are. They will also establish the goals that you, as a participant, will be able to understand and look at based on their contract. So within each contract, it'll be example of, I'm gonna give an example. Let's say the total contract dollar amount is $5 million. In there, it will state that there's some DBE participation, and the goals for that could be 20%. And so 20% of that $5 million as a goal would go towards a DBE firm in participating in the contract. And then they have a responsibility to evaluate the contracts as well. So they assist contracts throughout the year and establish contract-specific DBE subcontracting goals as necessary to achieve the overall goal of the agency. Note, the level of DBE subcontracting goals may vary. And what that means is it may not be the same goal every single time for every single contract. And those contracts are prime contracts as well as subcontracts awards to DBE firms. But it will establish goals, and those goals may vary and change from contract to contract. Next slide, please. Qualification requirements. This is key. In order for you to qualify, because you got to go through this and answer these questions for yourself as a firm, and you would ask yourself, why do I want to qualify? And we'll get to that later. But first, you must be a firm that is a for-profit business and also seeking to perform transportation-related work and or concession activity. And when I say concession, right quick, I'm gonna pause. The concession portion of this relates to the airports program, like Sacramento International Airport, who receives federal funding for their program. Part of that program is a concession program. And that concessions is you go into the airport, you will see all the concessionaires that are throughout the airport, where those concessionaires are small businesses. And some of them are definitely, you have to be a DBE certified or ACDB, in this case, airport concession specific, in order to qualify and be a part of that program to where you can become a concessionaire for the airport. So ACDBE only applies to airports. Now, DBE applies to all of the other Federal Transit Administration agencies that are out there, and I list a few of them here. So, number one, you must be a for-profit business and looking to do work with federal agencies within the transportation arena. Number two, ownership. You, as an owner, must be a 51% owner of the business and also socially and economically disadvantaged individual. And that is an individual that is in the next bullet, it identifies that categories are those categories that apply to a socially and economic disadvantaged individual. And so if you meet those standards within that qualification, you're a 51% owner and you're a for-profit business, you're almost there. The next one is business size determination. So as a small business, you have to be a small business as defined by the Small Business Administration, and they do it based on annual gross receipts over a previous 3 fiscal year period. And so in this case, those receipts cannot exceed $28.480 million. That's $28,480,000, okay, to correct that. Now, I wanted to also point out that for the ACDBE, the airport concessions, for those that are interested, the average annual gross receipt over the firm's 3 previous fiscal years is $56.42 million, which is a little bit higher than what it is for just basic DBE. So make sure you understand, DBE, 28.48 million, ACDBE, 56.42 million. Next slide. And by the way, you can go to the transportation.gov site, which was listed there. We'll put it in the chat if you don't get to see it later. The other qualifications are your personal net worth, meaning how much am I personally worth the way that the government views it, is less than $1.32 million. Does not include your individual ownership interest in the applicant firm and his or her equity in their primary residence. Well, I think I can confidently say that that probably covers everybody that's participating in this program today that is here. So the next one is independence. Once again, the firm has to be independent business when it's certified, and that it is a business that is viable and does not have a relationship or tied to or owned by another firm. And that's the test of independence. Then control. Control, what is control? Meaning that you as the business owner has the control, 51% ownership, but also that you control the day-to-day business and direct the management and policies of the firm. And you must have the overall understanding of a managerial and technical competence and experience directly related to the type of business in which the firm is engaged. So they want to make sure that you as an owner understand the business, that you're controlling the business, and the business is independent and that it's not owned by anybody else, and that your personal net worth is less than $1.32 million. And those are the personal qualifications. Now, if you meet those, next slide, then guess what? You become eligible for the program. And then if you're eligible, how do I apply? Well, you contact the specific state or local transportation entities for which you wish to participate in contracts with. And I list some of the agencies up there, and there's some of the agencies, like for instance, today we have the Valley Transit Authority that is going to do a presentation. If you're interested in working with Valley Transit Authority, you can contact Valley Transit Authority and find out what does it take in order for you to apply. You could also, we have the San Joaquin Rail Commission participating today. Same thing with that agency. But also to make it easier for you as a business owner, because we know, and the agency knows that, and the federal government understands that you're very busy trying to run your business, trying to market your business, trying to stay on top of your capital, meeting your payroll, doing all the many things that you do as a business owner. They've developed a unified certification program. What does that mean? There's a central point that you can go to and apply for DBE certification, and it is accepted and honored by all of the other agencies as well. And that is through the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans. Other agencies such as San Francisco Bay Area Rapid Transit District, and I list a few others that are on there, who are also, like I said earlier, VTA, Santa Clara Valley Transit Authority, also to name a few, are some of those who can also certify you. So to be certified, you need to apply online. And applying online, I have identified the website here that you would go to. And by the way, there, when you get online and you look at the application, don't go, oh, okay, just take a deep breath and just go down the elements one by one by one. And once you read through and understand the elements, and if you still have questions, then you reach out to your local SBDC representatives who will also sit down with you and help work through the process for you to understand how to apply and fill out the application. Because there are questions, there's a 15-page document, questions on there about should I apply? And that gets to do you qualify? Tells you how to apply, where can I get the application, who do I contact, where can I find more information about it? And I will put some of this into the website in the chat box. But there's basic information in there. And so once you get the application, please read through it. Now, I won't tell you that you need to make sure that you have your personal information in order. And what I mean by that is it's going to ask a lot of information about your taxes, the company's revenue, ownership, defining ownership, who's involved to establish if you control it, if it's independent business, your financial and banking information, sources that they can contact, and on and on and on. So it's a lot of information that they will try to retrieve from you in order to make a very clear determination that you meet all of the qualification criteria and that you are a sound business that has the capability to provide services in which the transportation agencies need. Next slide.
Hey, Matthew,
Yes.
question about certification.
Yeah.
Certifying in California. So a lot of the organizations you talked about for certification was Caltrans, even VTA. I mean, a lot of those are based in California. But if I get certified in California, am I also available to apply for bid opportunities outside of California and other states?
Yes. One of the things that you need to do first, you have to be certified in your home state. So if your home state, where your primary office building is for your headquarters building and where you reside is in California, get the certification in California. Then if you want to apply for opportunities in other states, then you contact that state agency and you let them know that you are certified and provide your certification within the state of California. And then they will do a review, but then you will be allowed to participate in other states. They may have one or two other elements that they might want to add to it, because remember, the federal government is providing these funds. The federal government underneath the DBE certification is across the United States and also perform services in overseas locations. So the Department of Transportation is the Department of Transportation in the state of Texas, in Oregon, in Washington State, California, Arizona, doesn't make a difference. It is the Department of Transportation. Hopefully that
Thanks.
answers your question.
Yep. And again, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box. Thanks, Matthew.
You're quite welcome. So we've talked about the program. We've talked about what are the requirements to be eligible. We've talked about how do I apply. And then the next question is, what are the benefits? Everybody wants to know what are the benefits. If I'm looking at my business plan and I'm projecting out over a few years, and I'm trying to determine where I want to go from here in the next 5 years, I need to look at things that are going to benefit my organization. And one of the benefits by being certified as a DBE firm is you get to participate with a whole lot of agencies that have opportunities that are being funded by the federal government. And that opens up your playbook in terms of who can you participate with, who can I call upon. So it gives you a larger, wider perspective of agencies in which you can seek opportunities. And there are tons of opportunities out there. And you don't want to limit yourself just to a few because of lack of certifications. And that's it. Expand your opportunity to participate. You become accessible. Besides the federal agencies themselves, the other entities that look at the DBE certification, because remember we talked about the DBE participation goal requirements. Those goals are established in each of the contracts. So there are larger contracts that large primes bid on. And for them to bid on those projects successfully, they also have to have a small business participation plan. And within that participation plan, they're trying to show how they're going to achieve and fulfill the disadvantaged business enterprise participation goals established for that contract. And if you are a DBE certified firm, then that large firm and large prime will be looking for you based on the services that you provide. They can go to the CUCP database and then look for you in that database. But this also gives you a really good way to market your firm, because you can go to large firms and find out who is a large firm that's working with VTA. And VTA, I noticed over the next fiscal year and the fiscal year following, has a number of projects that I am interested in and that my company can provide services. But more than likely, those projects are going to come out at a dollar amount larger than what I can as a prime. So what primes are participating in that program? What primes are tracking VTA? What primes are doing work with VTA? And I'm using VTA as an example. Therefore, I can go to those primes and market myself. And the key element I want to throw out there right off the bat is say, hey, Turner, Swinnerton, Webcor, I am DBE certified and I provide these services. You say DBE certified, it raises their eyebrows. And then they're going to then look to see what type of services you provide. So that is a huge benefit for you and your firm. And it also increases your opportunity to network at events such as procurement fairs and pre-bids. This is an opportunity where you can interact with other agencies, other primes, other businesses such as yourself to develop relationships for long-term business relationships, for teaming arrangements, and to go on after opportunities that may be coming up. There's also eligibility for mentor protege opportunities, such as the Caltrans Cal Mentor Program that takes DBE firms that are interested in working with Caltrans. And they created a special program where they mentor these firms over I think it's a 60-day, 60-day process where they provide additional introduction into doing work with Caltrans. The other cool thing about this, there are no fees to apply, except the cost of having your application notarized. Next slide. You also must perform a commercially useful function. What is that? That is, the work that you're providing has to be work that you normally do as a business. You must manage and supervise that work. You must be able to negotiate the price, determine quality and quantity, and also pay for your materials. And access to capital is another one that small business development centers focus on, providing training and access for you on access to capital in order so that you can meet your payroll, cash flow, also for purchase of materials. And if applicable, install the materials. For trucking services, own and operated at least own fully licensed, insured, and operational truck and use it on the contract. So that means if you're getting after a trucking contract opportunity, then you must own one truck and use that truck on that particular contract, in addition to any other trucks that you bring in by subcontracting with someone else. So you must perform a commercially useful function. Next slide, as I'm moving to wrap up. And which is, I just talked about, a commercially useful function does not include a DBE's role is limited to being an extra participant in a transaction, meaning you're just allowing things to pass through you. So if you get a firm that says, hey, come on board, we want to do this, you go after it, you be the prime, but all we're going to do is give you 10% and we're going to perform all the work. That's not performing a commercially useful function, okay? That is called a pass-through, and pass-throughs are no-nos. And then in most cases, the DBE that does not perform at least 30% of the contract with its own workforces or subcontracts out a greater portion than that expected for normal industry practices. So you have to perform at least 30% of the work yourself with your own workforces as a DBE firm. Next slide. Main participant requirements. That participation requirements, that means you. You must continue to maintain records and submit certified payroll records, keep records of work performed and payments, comply with the request for documents. Agencies from time to time may come to you and say, hey, can you provide me a copy of this report or a copy of that report? And you must be able to do that. Notify the department if your firm is listed for commitment, but is not used on a project. And so in order, one of the comment I wanted to make behind that is, if you are working with a prime and the prime lists you as a DBE participant for this project and they win the project, but later on they do not use you, then you need to report that. to the department that you were going after the contract with, because they're supposed to bring you forward. You should on the
Hey, Matt, there's a question about to be DBE certified, do you have to own at least one truck, or is a lease option available? Do you have to own the truck?
The question is, do you have to own it? And the answer to that is no. If you are paying and it is your truck, the key is the truck, whether you own it and or you're leasing it for the operation and using it, but you're not subcontracting from another trucking company, but you're going to a entity that sells trucks and you're leasing the truck from them. And so that truck is now listed underneath your book and your thing, and you control and operate that truck, then yes, you can do it as a lease program. The key is they want you to bring your material and equipment that you own and or at least to the table, not someone else's.
Great.
To a certain degree to meet the requirements, because then once again it turns into a pass-through.
All right, thank you.
Okay. If there are there any other questions? If there are not any other questions, to continue to move this forward, we'll move on with our next presenter.
Matthew,
Yes.
there's another question. Is there a webinar for already certified DBE, AC DBE certified company?
If the question is, if you're already certified as a DBE, ACDBE firm, is there a webinar? I am quite sure that there are several webinars. I know I've seen some from Caltrans and also some for some other agencies that host additional training beyond the certification that looks at how to continually do work with that agency and key things you as a business owner need to know. And so we have also, in addition to that, in this workshop series that we'll be hosting, if you're DBE certified, AC DBE certified, you want to know and be a part of the next series that we're doing, which is planning and research. So once I'm certified, what do I do next? Marketing and business development. What do I do next? Responding to an RFP and managing contracts. So there are, underneath this training series that's being held for transportation procurement over the next 4 weeks, some training series that has to say, this applies to those who are certified and those who are not certified. But definitely if you're certified, now you want to know what's the next step and how do I get started? And those training series sessions will help you with that. So I hope I answered your question.
There's also a question on how long does it take to get certified?
The process and certification, and I'd have to go back and take a look, but a question, if the question is, once I have my document in place, and it's different between the certain agencies' time of the year because of the workload, so on and so on, but you can expect that it would be anywhere from 60 to 90 days for the certification process. But so once you gather all of your data and documentation, and that you make sure that you have everything, if it is complete and concise and have all of the information that is requested, then it reduces the time frame of having to go back and forth, which is the most part of the time frame. So you're missing some information in your taxes, or you sent them a copy and not the original taxes. Those things add more time. So making sure that your application is complete and concise can help reduce that time frame. But you should expect that it's going to be between 60 and 90 days for the certification to take place.
And is there effort that, as a small business owner, that I need to follow up with if I don't hear back? I mean, do I need to be persistent and continue to contact
you can
them?
always, yes. The answer to that question is yes. After you submit your application, then you do want to follow up because they give you an information and a contact area. You want to follow up to one to make sure that they received your application and that it didn't get lost in the network somewhere. And then after that, you should give them about 3 weeks or so as they're working on it and follow up again to make sure that the application is still moving through the process. And then continually follow up. And the agencies then will tell you, we will probably come back and say, hey, we'll get back to you within XYZ, within 3 weeks, within 4 weeks, you should hear back from us. Basically, what they're saying then is, don't call us again for another 3 or 4 weeks, as you know. But it is your application, and you're concerned about getting it done because you're looking at opportunities. And there is not, and I see one of the chats from someone saying that's not true. They don't give you a name until the application is not a name. And please understand that there is not a name that they're going to give you, and that's absolutely correct. But where you file your application, you can continue to follow up through that on your application. There's not going to be a person that you can call that says, hey, John, I'm calling you back about my application. No, that's not. But
Is there a
follow up?
Oh, sorry. Is there any information or data that breaks down the race ethnicity of DBE owned firms? So this is a question in chat. Also, is there data that confirms who received contracts based on race ethnicity or for ACDBE?
Okay, the second question, is there data concerning if there are contracts that are issued based on race? Is that the question?
Yeah.
So if you're a DBE firm and they're working with an agency, each agency tracks their DBE spend in terms of how many contracts or dollars are spent, which is two separate things. A prime contract and a subcontract are two separate items. So they track the dollars spent on the DBE program, and that can let you know how many DBEs were there for, which are minority-owned firms that receive contracts. And I'm quite sure the Small Business Administration, in addition to the California State Transportation Department, also tracks this data for their record keeping and also continued decision making across establishing goals.
Okay, I guess that's part of the, how much public information is out there, because these are public contracts as well.
That is correct. And so the first part of the question was?
Is there information or data that breaks down the race or ethnicity of DBE owned firms? So I think part of that is that public information part of it. Is that, if a contract has been accepted, and if it was, a prime or a subcontractor, then they would list something out like who received that contract.
Yes.
I know that there are information,
but they won't say necessarily their race and ethnicity or minority. They will say that it's a DBE firm that received that contract. Now, then there are other portal sources that you can go pull up information on that firm's name through a database search, and then look at the firm, and you can make the determination yourself whether or not that is. I don't think underneath this program that they are tracking to that level, because they're only tracking DBE. They're not necessarily tracking whether or not it's Hispanic owned, Asian owned, African American owned, on and on and on. They may have some of that data, but they're not tracking. They're tracking DBE. Once you're certified as a DBE, they're tracking DBE, and you must be one of those categories. Now, under the federal actual side, they track 8A, they track woman-owned, they track minority, and on, and that's a little different.
Sure. Okay, some of the other questions are based on opportunities, and I think this might be a good time to hear from our guest speakers.
Yes, I think it is. So, guest speakers today, as we stated earlier, our next guest speaker who's up to speak is going to be Autumn Gowan. She's a procurement and contracts manager, DBE manager, San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission. And followed by her will be Jennifer Mena, Business Diversity Programs Management Analyst, and she's probably smiling when I said that, Valley Transportation Authority. And so Autumn is next, and then Jennifer is going to follow up after Autumn, and they have great presentations. So at this point, we're going to turn it over to Autumn. Autumn, you ready to go?
I am, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Next slide, please. As Matthew said, my name is Autumn Gowan. I'm the Procurement and Contracts Manager, but also the DBE Manager for the Rail Commission and the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, which I'll give a little bit more information on the next slide. Just a quick background about myself. I have a degree in business administration for general management. I've spent about 9 years in procurement and contracts here with the Rail Commission, and all of my transit experience has been here. But I did have, over my career, I have 18 years of procurement and materials and services and equipment and construction projects. Next slide, please. So the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission, or SJRC, or Rail Commission for short, we're the governing body of the Ultima Corridor Express. It's the train that goes from Stockton to San Jose and back. We have 4 daily round trips right now. We're currently in the middle of a large expansion. We're going to be going down to Merced, Madera, and then all the way up to Sacramento, and then back into the Bay Area. And we'll have several thoroughway buses. We'll have some connecting routes with that as well. We also are the managing agency for the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, or the JPA, and that is the administrating agency for the Amtrak San Joaquins. The current route for that is from Bakersfield to Sacramento and Oakland, but that is also part of an expansion. We're adding stations. We'll have shared stations. So we have several, a lot of construction projects coming up in the next couple of years. Next slide, please. So that expansion is what we call Valley Rail. We're going to have 17 new stations. We have 9 anticipated in the southern segment, which is south of Stockton. And then we have 6 in the northern segment, which is north of Stockton. And then we have 2 new San Joaquin stations that are being built as part of that as well. So those would be San Joaquin's, they would be the Amtrak specific. They wouldn't be shared by ACE and the San Joaquins. But as you can see, this is the overview of what our service is going to look like in the future with all of our stations. Next slide, please. So it will add, the Valley Rail will add 2 daily round trips for the San Joaquins, and then an extension again as for Altamont, the ACE train. So we'll be able to go further and longer. It'll provide more service to the Bay Area, and it'll also provide more service down through the Central Valley. We have lots of passengers that ride up to Sacramento, say, for business. And so they can be dropped off near the Capitol. We'll also have routes that take us to the Natomas Airport, where you can actually at one day grab a shuttle that'll take you to the airport. So you won't even have to drive to get to the airport. And then it brings equity to the Central Valley and by connecting it to the Bay Area and Sacramento and the other counties. And it's just for the state of California in general, it's a pretty large project. It's going to look really different here, you know, about 8 years. Next slide, please. So I'll go over a couple of contract opportunities. Next slide, please. So currently we have bids or proposals out for our marketing and outreach. We're looking for someone to help us with the ACE side of our business. We're also procuring elevators for the Valley Rail stations. This is a unique procurement, but we are establishing pricing for elevators so that when these stations go into construction, we know which elevator we're going to be using. But that's a pretty large procurement. And then we have paint. We're painting the inside of our historic building here at the Robert Jacob Rawls in Stockton. So those proposals are due in mid-April, and then we're also updating our phone system. So those are the current projects we have out right now. Next slide, please. But we do have a list, and we always have upcoming projects. These can be found on our website under the contract opportunities section. So in spring, we have federal advocacy. We're upgrading the carpet at our station. We need a Title VI analysis study. We need a new grants management city. We have several, grants management software. And then we also have construction projects. So there's lots of opportunities for sub-consultants on our larger construction projects. We're doing a parking lot. We're going to be purchasing shelters. We're expanding our Cabral station and building an annex and a whole new building. We're also building the Stockton Diamond, which is a big area up here in Stockton to help mitigate some of the freight traffic that we receive up here. We're building a station in Madera, and then we're also building a transfer station in Lathrop. So we have to start that process by expanding our track and building a Y there. Next slide, please. And then we always have ongoing projects. An agency this size needs lots of support to run day to day. And so every 3 to 5 years, depending on the contracts, we'll be going out for regular services. We always need copiers, landscapings, our websites, marketing and outreach. We'll add to that sometimes if we need additional support, fire alarms, HVAC, IT, our phone system, printing, pest control, and mat services. I mean, that's just a list of what we could come up with, but we do have several ongoing projects that need to be renewed regularly. Next slide, please. So requirements, I focused this one on our federal requirements because DBE is usually tied to federal dollars. And so for our federal dollars, we have Buy America requirements. That means that any articles, materials, supplies that are used in an infrastructure project or affixed to the final project, they have to follow certain Buy America requirements, percentages of steel manufactured here in the States. And it also applies to iron and steel. And then we also have to follow prevailing wage requirements. That's a labor code, and it's required on all of our public contracts and then our public works projects, excuse me. And then being registered on the California DIR and then checking certified payrolls. Those are all requirements of, well, Buy America's federal, prevailing wages is the state. Next, please. So what is the Rail Commission looking for in vendors? So we utilize Planet Bids. That's our vendor portal. We do all of our formal procurements. Formal would be anything over the $250,000 mark is hosted through Planet Bids. We're working right now to get our smaller purchases in there as well. So it would be easier for us to put something in there and blast it to all of our vendors. And then proof of availability to work in the state of California, which is your statement of information. If you don't have that and you're proprietary or you're an LLC, I believe there's certain rules and other forms of proof that we'll accept, but most of the time we'll look on the California website. Anything over 25,000, we have to go through sam.gov, which is a federal debarment review. And it's a quick review. We look something up on a website and make sure that you're not debarred by the federal government. And then the solicitation documents will give any other specifics. So certain certifications, licensing requirements, anything like that will be in that specific solicitation documents, and we'll make sure that we're getting the correct qualified firm to help us. And then if you have any questions, even after this, you could reach out to us at procurements@sjrrc.com, and we'd be happy to give you the information to get registered on Planet Bids or answer any other questions you have. Next slide, please. So what makes us unique, though, as an agency? So our founding executives, we have 3 of them. They're still here. We started in 1995, and they are the executives or have worked here since the beginning, and they're still running the agency now. We also own our own rail maintenance facility out here in Stockton. So we have maintenance there. We take care of the trains there. It's a LEED building, so it's environmentally green. It's a really nice facility. And we have 2 governing bodies. We're unique in that way. So we have plenty of opportunities to enter into contracts because we have 2 governing boards telling us what they would like us to do. And then we're the planned future operating agency also for the high-speed rail. So once that starts, we will be the people to be responsible for running the trains. So that'll be more opportunities. We do have 45 plus funding sources between local, state, federal. And we range projects from small to mega. So we have everything from building a $500 million Stockton Diamond down to a day-to-day type contract. So we have plenty of opportunities for small businesses and DBEs to register or to do business with us. And we're trying our best to lead the innovation here in the Central Valley and in California by coming up with unique solutions to help. We understand the guidelines and requirements we put out there sometimes are hard to deal with, and they are a lot to deal with. From our end, they are too. So we do try internally our best to make it easy for everybody that works with us. Next slide, please. And then I could go over our goal and methodology real quick to piggyback onto what Matthew kind of talked about. If you go to the next slide, please. So we have to do it every 3 years. We have to come up with our own DBE methodology and our own goal that we do as an agency. So we have to look at all of our FTA funded projects. We have approximately 11 million through 2025. This is actually a little outdated and I should have updated it, but we've gotten a little bit more federal funds since we had to submit our program, but we're not required to formally update it, but we do have more money available through 2025. Our DBE goal as an agency is 4.93%. We do historically reach that and exceed it, so that's nice to know. We do have to follow the race neutral measures, so we are not allowed to put a contract goal, but we do encourage and we try to connect our primes with sub-consultants and make sure that they're doing their best to work with DBE firms. And then Matthew's already talked about how to register as a DBE. We currently do not have a small business program, but we're working on that one. And so hopefully we'll be able to give more resources to our small businesses. But we are driven as an agency and myself personally to do as much work. I like doing these outreaches. It gets us out there and we get to see and share more with the public, and we seem to get a lot of engagement that way. But we do want to work with our local businesses and our small businesses, especially as we expand through the state. It's really important that the communities feel like they're a part of what we're building in California. So to do that, we do present at these, but also we have hosted a couple of our own events with the support of this team here, actually most of the time, to help us with those events as well. So we do try to get ourselves out there more and more. And then Planet Bids helps foster collaboration. You're able to go in there and see the other vendors that are interested in the solicitations. And if they mark themselves as primes, you can reach out to them and see if they're interested in partnering. Next slide, please. Oh, I don't know if I want to go, but I will. We had to build our methodology. We do have to do a lot of research to do so. And it represents the percentage of DBE firms who are ready, available, and able, ready, willing, and able to participate in our FTA assisted contract opportunities. And then based on that analysis, that's how we come up with the 4.93%. So we have to take all of the projects and then the anticipated scope of work. We have to combine all of that, and it gives us this percentage, which is actually, I think, on the next slide, please. Yeah, so that's a better look at what it looks like. So we do have 71 million available, but 11 million of that is available to DBEs based on our analysis. And those are the projects that we've identified. This was done back in 2023 early, so I believe some of this has been updated. We have a couple new projects that we've received new federal funds for, and that'll be in the next report that's due in 2025. Next slide, please. So we did propose this, and it's been approved by the FTA because of the emphasis on our race neutral methods. We use the race neutral. We are doing our DBE goal by race neutral measures, and this allows all small businesses to compete with each other, and that allows us to help meet our goals. So we're not putting it just in the contract goals. Everybody has open and fair competition across the board. Next slide, please. And that is it. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm wearing my DBE hat today, so I can do what I can as a DBE manager. If there's any procurement questions, I can direct you to our procurement person, or actually the procurement email, and they can help you with any of those questions.
Yeah, Autumn, I think some of the questions that I've received is regarding Planet Bids and how Planet Bids work. You know, by registering through Planet Bids, is it obviously helpful to use keywords? Is that how you look for suppliers, is through or vendors, or like what's the best approach?
Sure, that's a great question. Actually, I think if you go back to the slide with the graph, the table, sorry. It's the NEX codes, the North American Industry Classification codes. So every vendor that registers with Planet Bids will choose their labor. We call them labor codes for short, but it's the NEX codes. And so that's what we'll use when we go to release something. So if you are marketing and outreach, you would choose the NEX codes that fall into that description. And then when we release our RFPs or IFPs, we would also be pulling the marketing and outreach NEX codes. And then those two match up, and that's how you get the alert.
Great. I think a lot of the questions I see in Q&A have been about the opportunity. So thank you for that list. We see that in the slides. And again, these slides will be shared with you after the session. The question did come in, is Planet Bids a free subscription? Is there a fee associated with that?
So the agency pays so that the vendors shouldn't have to, but I do believe I've heard that there's like upgraded subscriptions. So you can choose to pay Planet Bids for additional services, but just to get the alerts from us and to be able to submit, that should not be a fee. That was one of their issues. That was one of their selling points. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't a cost to the vendors. If anybody has any different information, I'd be happy to hear that so I can address that, because that was truly one of the things we wanted to make sure it was important and it wasn't restrictive to anybody. But they do have additional offers for vendors that you can pay for.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. Matthew?
Okay, then let's move on. Thank you, Autumn.
Welcome.
Great
Thank you.
information and great presentation as always. And so now let's move on to Jennifer. Jennifer?
Good morning, or actually, I guess a good afternoon, everyone. Good to be with you all here today. I am Jennifer Mena, and yes, I did laugh, Matthew, because I know we discussed it ahead of time. So however you want to say it, Jennifer Mena. I'm a management analyst here in the VTA Office of Business Diversity Programs, and I've been with VTA and worked in this department for 4 years. Among other things, I manage the DBE SBE outreach program at VTA, and I'm excited to share more about it with you. Something that I find very interesting is that VTA not only provides bus, light rail, and paratransit services, but as the county's congestion management agency, VTA is also responsible for countywide transportation planning, including congestion management, design, and construction of specific highway, pedestrian, and bicycle improvement projects, as well as promotion of transit-oriented development. VTA provides all of these services throughout the county, including Campbell, Cupertino, Gilroy, Los Altos Hills, Los Gatos, Milpitas, Monte Sereno, Morgan Hill, Mountain Valley, Palo Alto, San Jose, Santa Clara, Saratoga, and Sunnyvale. Quite extensive. So VTA continually builds partnerships to deliver transportation solutions that meet the evolving mobility needs of Santa Clara County. If you would please move to the next slide. Okay. Since I'm here representing VTA today, I just want to point out that VTA has 2 types of certifications. I know we're specifically addressing DBE certifications, and I consider that, and I call it frequently, the mother of all applications or certifications, if you will. I think it's very good if you can apply for and get that certification. As Matthew has mentioned, these DBE certifications are good for federally funded contracts, and they are contracts that are receiving money through the federal government for qualifying projects. So DBE certifications are applied for through VTA or any other CUCP agency. And so if you're in Santa Clara County and you're applying through the CUCP, your application will go straight over to our agency. If you're outside of Santa Clara County, the CUCP will filter you off appropriately according to your geographic location. VTA has a 13% triennial goal for non-BART and capital projects. The agency has also established a 12% DBE project goal for our BART Phase 2 project. So we've created a specific project goal for our BART Phase 2 construction because it's so large. We didn't want it to skew our overall triennial goal. Secondly, the second type of certification I'm just going to touch on real quick is the SBE, or the Small Business Enterprise application or certification. This particular certification is good for state and locally funded contracts, and you may certify through VTA only or through DGS. We accept DGS SB micro certifications for an SBE certification here at VTA. If you are a DBE, however, this certification, as I mentioned before, is the mother of all certifications. And this status is good for SBE contracts because all DBEs are considered SBEs. So, and as a reminder, I just want to point out, VTA has a 19% aspirational goal on SBE contracts. Next slide, please. Why certify? As I mentioned on the previous slide, we have set goals on both our DBE and SBE contracts, and we also have that BSV Phase 2 project. So we, just to get everybody the hot off the press information, we have just ordered our tunnel boring machine. It's a TBM, and that's the big machine that's going to bore a big hole through downtown San Jose. So we've ordered that machine. The tunnels work packages have been released. And as I mentioned, this is a federally funded project. So we're going to need DBEs on this project. As well, our board of directors just approved on our East Ridge to BART, EBRC, East Ridge to BART contract. They have just approved proceeding with the contract award stage. That should occur in mid-May. So another contract to be excited about if you are certified, to start, looking into. One of the biggest barriers to getting government contracts is insurance. So VTA has an owner-controlled insurance program, or an OSIP. And we have put this on the BSV Phase 2 project for all certified small businesses. So enrolled participants will generally include all contractors and subcontractors of every tier involved with on-site project construction. It would just be entirely too costly for a small business to incur this insurance burden. Next are certified DBE and SBE firms that become prime contractors directly with VTA will automatically be eligible for payment on a net 15 basis from the day of approved invoice without any discount being taken. So that's another benefit of being certified. And then lastly, a good reason to certify is VTA also has a small business set-aside program, which is currently placed on all purchases under $150,000. Next slide, please. All right, get certified. Hopefully you're getting it. Next slide. And just to boil down why certification is worthwhile for your business, as Autumn has mentioned, as Matthew has mentioned, certified is recognized by transit agencies in California, the entire state. It expands opportunities to participate in federally funded contracts. You become accessible to prime contractors needing to fulfill DBE participation goal requirements. You're listed on the CUCP database, and it increases opportunities to network at events like pre-bids and procurement fairs. Next slide, please. So how to find more information on VTA's certification programs, and those two programs again are DBE and SBE programs. If you will navigate over here to the VTA.org/business center, you would scroll to get certified. Right, next slide, please. Then you would scroll down, and this would take you to VTA's Office of Business Diversity Programs webpage. And here, if you scroll down to the next slide, you'll see the little accordions here. And there's various bits of information underneath each of these accordions. So our certifications are online applications, and you're going to find the link to certifications here if you'll click Access Now. So being in Santa Clara County, as I mentioned earlier, all DBE certifications would go through our agency, VTA. Outside of the county, again, they'll go to another agency. And as was asked and answered earlier, certifications normally take up to 90 days once we have received all, and I'm going to repeat, all of the required information and documentation. So your package does need to be complete. And while you're at it and you're on this page, if you would subscribe to our business diversity programs updates by filling in your email address, we will make sure that you get every notification that is sent out by our program. Any events that we do and outreach will come to you directly. Next page, please. So you're certified. Now what? You market your firm, you be prepared and be proactive. You network with other firms and agencies and stay informed of upcoming opportunities. VTA hosts and participates in many outreach events. In fact, we want you to be aware of these networking opportunities specifically geared toward DBE and SBE firms and or becoming certified. Next page, please. We have a workshop that we're about to participate in on the BART Phase 2 project. This is the flyer for that. This is a workshop for DBE eligible trucking companies. So this is the DBE application workshop that is being hosted by KST or Kiewit. Let's see, Kiewit Shea Trailer, the joint venture handling this portion of the BSV tunnel and track contract with us. So mark this on your calendar. If you are a trucking company, we'd like to see you there. Next page, please. I'm very excited to introduce, this is the first place I've introduced our first annual Contracts and Contacts event, formerly known as Meet the Primes, but we're expanding this event. It's going to be on May 1st, where it's going to be held at our headquarters. And we will be hosting DBEs, SBEs, prime contractors. We want to connect all of these businesses with our certifiers, with our contract administrators, with our project managers, anyone at VTA who touches a contract. We want to make this a very unique event for you to meet these people, to put a face with a name or just with a contract, and to get more information about upcoming opportunities. So it's going to be a really large event. We're going to have food trucks too. It's going to be fun and unlike any other event that VTA has done yet. So VTA is also a member of the Business Outreach Committee, and they're called the BOC. The BOC will also be hosting a Meet the Primes event sometime in May as well. So there will be also, I want to mention, on June 12th and June 13th, the BOC and VTA will host a 2-day DBE ACDBE certification workshop. So on June 12th, we'll have part 1. It'll be virtual. And then on June 13th, we'll hold part 2 physically at VTA's headquarters. So just some things that are coming up that I hope you're able to participate in and take part of. Next slide, please. Supplier registration, next slide. VTA procures and solicits everything from janitorial cleaning items to copy paper and temporary placement services to construction and highway services and everything in between. So if you have subscribed on our procurement website, the notices will come to you automatically. And when you want to submit a bid or proposal, it must be done electronically through our OpenGov portal before the due date and time. Next slide, please. This is how you would subscribe to get procurement information. You would go to vta.org/business-center. You saw this slide previously when we talked about getting certified. And register, submit or press the button, get registered. Next slide, please. This is a sample of what you would see of some procurements that we have had out there. From the point of getting registered, you would need to hit the green subscribe button and register your company. And it's going to require that you enter all of your NAICS codes that your business is associated with. Doing so will ensure you receive emails pertinent to your business whenever VTA uploads them to this OpenGov portal. Next slide, please. And here is our most recent list of upcoming contracts. And I believe this slide is going to be sent out in email format to you. So you can always go to the Office of Business Diversity Programs webpage. And I showed you how to do that here earlier. And you can look under our resources tab and see our upcoming contracts. I update this quarterly. Next slide, please. This is just the remaining contracts that are coming up. And then BART Silicon Valley Phase 2, what to expect as we move forward with this project. Are there any questions?
So I think this question was addressed to Autumn, but Jennifer, you might be able to answer this too. But are there micro purchases that aren't not really published as a contract? Is that also available for vendors as well?
That's a very good question. Yes, we do have small business set-asides that are $150,000 and less. And quite honestly, you would just sort of start getting in contact with different contract administrators or project managers. And my hope is that the event that we're putting on May 1 will start connecting folks with these individuals, making those contacts. And if you are certified, it definitely gives you the leg up.
Yes, I think that contracts and contacts event is appropriate exactly for this opportunity.
Excellent.
Yeah, Matthew, do you have any other questions? Well, I look.
Yes, no, I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
I think I do want to go ahead.
Yeah, I see a hand from Pete Varma,
Yeah.
but Pete, can you put your question in the Q&A box? That way we can ask our panelists here.
Kenji,
Yes.
there is a
see.
question in Q&A. Any contract opportunities for bakery owners, such as catering needs from Amber?
Oh yeah, I see that. So I guess we talk about transportation and we always think construction. Are there other opportunities for other vendors such as our caterers or Jennifer, can you answer that type of question?
That's a great question because yes, as I mentioned, we have everything that, we have needs from janitorial through highway construction. And in constructing this event, contracts and contacts, I've been looking for food trucks that are certified. There aren't any. I would love to invite some certified food trucks to this event. So I've sort of had to go outside of certification for that, but it would be very beneficial if we had bakeries, different catering, and I know there are catering companies out there that are certified, but it does put you out in front of all of our agencies across the state.
Awesome. There's a question about the VTA insurance. I know you mentioned that. Can you talk a little bit more about that opportunity?
Sure. I basically that OSIP program is specifically for our BART Phase 2 project because it's billions of dollars we're talking about, and to get insurance on a project like that would be too much money for a small business. So if there's something outside of that scope, maybe ask me and let me answer, because I'm not sure if there's something else to that.
Okay. I don't see anything specific, but let's see. There's another question here. Maybe Matthew, you might be answering this. Can you register as an SPE with VTA if your business is not a California LLC business? So I guess the LLC was registered in a different state, but can you also register as an SPE? Maybe that's the question.
Yeah, that is the question. And before I answer that, Jennifer, you had any comment on that?
Yeah, SBEs, our SBE program pretty much mirrors the DBE program, except for the race conscious factor. So yes, you have to be registered in the state of California. You have to be a business and doing business in the state and residing or housing your business in the state of California.
Yes, and to further that a little bit further, remember the SBE Small Business Enterprise Program is state specific or local entity specific because it is non-federal. So for that program particularly, you have to be registered as a business within that locale or that state. If it was federal, it's a different thing. I did put into the chat comments in reference to the interstate agency program, where if you are in your home state and wanted to do business in another state, somebody asked that question, so I put information in the chat about that, so you would contact the Central Unified Certification Agency reference to that interstate program and process.
I do see a question here. I'm sure this is regarding safety, but are you looking for, this person is looking for information for non-emergency medical transportation. I think that's his business, is the medical transportation. Is there opportunities for business like his? Jennifer, would you?
Is that specific to me? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will have contracts like that. I'm sure there's opportunity for that. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I would highly encourage you to go to our OpenGov, where, you know, I listed supplier registration, register with VTA, and look at the different contracts that we have out there. I'm sorry, we've got several, and so I can't think of anything. Nothing surfaces, rises to the top here.
Sure. Autumn, thanks for coming back online. You know, we were speaking about micro purchases and those types of opportunities. Are those available as well through the SJRC?
Yeah, absolutely. I was sorry, I was here. I just didn't have my camera on. I didn't realize what you were doing. So yeah, we absolutely do. We don't utilize Planet Bids quite yet for that. It's because we're getting used to it, but we do. And what we do is we share our vendor list with our project managers, and they pull from that vendor list to call and get quotes and do it a little bit less formal. But we do pull from Planet Bids, so being registered on there is still helpful.
Okay, so that list is mostly kind of gathered from Planet Bids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
yes.
It's very important, if you're a small business, to please register with Planet Bids if you want to be seen by the SJRC.
Yeah, and I failed to acknowledge too that Planet Bids, for any other local transit agency or any other government agency that has Planet Bids. Sorry, I work at the train station, so there's a train. 1 second.
I just heard it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah. One more. We're right between two crossings too, so they have to honk on this side of the building, and then they have to honk on this side too. Sorry. So we share resources. So once you're registered with Planet Bids, then you register with the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission. You'll see ours automatically. But what we as agencies have, we have the option to do a bid blast. So we can blast out to vendors that are not registered with us, but they still have a Planet Bids registration with another agency. And then we ask them to come register with SNC. So you could be registered with NCTD and then see our opportunities and then come register with us and see ours. So you do get not just the rail commissions, but any other agency or municipality, their cities, counties, colleges all use Planet Bids.
Okay. Shannon and Pete, I do see your hands. If you could please put your questions in the Q&A box, we'll get to them. Thank you. Jennifer, I know that a lot of small businesses have registered with Cal eProcure. Now, is that also a database that you would search through, or is that something separate? And is there a specific bid platform that you use?
Yeah, so ours is OpenGov, and forgive me because I'm having like a moment here, but I believe it used to be called Cal eProcure, and they changed the name to OpenGov. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. But that's where we do get our, that's where we do upload our bids.
Okay. Okay. Autumn, anything you know about Cal eProcure?
No, I do know that's the state. So we've pulled from there before, and or if we need help to see what they've used in the past, but we are not connected to Cal eProcure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Kenji, it's worth to note that there are several based on agency that you're going to do business with. Everyone doesn't use Cal eProcure. They have their own sites that they use and their own methods. So there isn't one single point you can go to look at everything. But in this process that we're going to discuss in the next session on planning and research leads to talking about if you know the agencies that you want to work with, nailing them down specifically, then learn everything about that agency, including how it procures its services, which is very helpful.
Yeah, and I apologize. It obviously wasn't connecting. Cal eProcure is Department of General Services,
Mhm.
and we do utilize it's called DGS,
Mhm.
their SB Micro certifications in lieu of a VTA SBE certification. So that's the only other certification that VTA utilizes when looking at SBE applications or certifications, if you will.
Right. Again, Shannon, I still see your hand up. If you could please put your question in the Q&A box, we'll get to that. And we can answer your question. Matthew, do you have any other questions for our panelists?
No, I don't really have any other questions I guess I want to say, I do have one question. Somebody asked a question earlier, but I'm going to phase it a little bit differently. Can either you, Autumn, and or Jennifer identify what was your 2023 results in terms of your DBE goals and dollar spend with DBE firms?
I had actually reached out to get that information from our team yesterday. Sadly, I did not get that back in time. So I'm still looking for it. So, I can forward that on to you folks, and
Yes, you
y'all
can.
email that out if you'd like.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Give me 30 more seconds. I have to pull up my report. I wasn't prepared.
That's
But,
right.
yeah, just give me 1 second. I'll have to pull up my.
In the meantime, if while Autumn is looking for the information, if everyone in the room could take a moment to complete the evaluation survey. I'm gonna pop the link in the chat again.
Yes. Again, the slides and recording will be provided to you following this meeting. So we do ask if you just complete the short survey after this webinar or during this webinar, and let us know if this information was useful for you. Our next steps is to work with an SBDC advisor. As mentioned before, we offer no-cost business advising. Contact your local SBDC and we can match you with an advisor to help you with your small business. The next slide will show our center and the areas provided. And again, if you don't see the area that you're in, please go to norcalsbdc.org and we can connect you that way through our regional network there. Autumn.
And go ahead, Autumn.
So we, in the last reporting year, so our fiscal years are the federal fiscal year. So federal fiscal year is October to September of 2023. We were at 8.5%.
And what was the goal?
Our goal that year was the 4.93%. So we exceeded it by 3.65. We exceeded it by 3.65% from October 22 to September 23.
Thank you.
Yep.
If we could go to the next slide. We do have some upcoming events in addition to the events that Jennifer had mentioned. We have a Capital Summit that's coming up next Wednesday at 3 p.m. at Solano Community College at Vallejo. There'll be a couple of talks on maximizing your social media strategy and exploring your funding options. And later in the evening, there's a lender panel, and you'll be able to meet traditional and non-traditional lenders such as Working Solutions, Cal Capital, and Travis Credit Union. We are going to talk about funding in our future talks. So that's very important. How are you going to fund, the contracts that you'll be winning? So this is a good event to attend to support your funding as well. Next slide. The next event is our Transportation Procurement Summit at the Tracy Community Center on April 25th at 8 a.m. We'll have an Access to Capital panel as well, a resource fair with representatives from Caltrans, SAC-RT, and Port of Stockton participating. And this one too, Autumn, it's the same event as last year. I think San Joaquin Rail will also be participating. So if you'd like to come and meet Autumn, please come to that event. We'd love to have you and meet there. If there aren't any other questions.
I have one or two things right quick.
Sure.
Kenji.
Go ahead, Matthew.
Just as you're talking about upcoming events, I don't want to miss the opportunity to say next week on March the 21st, we're having another session in this round of transportation procurement training series on planning and research. And it's the same time as this Thursday. And our guest panelists will be from the Sacramento Airport and also from the city of San Jose. So we will have guest panelists from those two agencies participating in that planning and research. So please don't miss it and look to come out and participate. Also, leading up to the April 25th, there are sessions on March the 28th, Business and Development and Marketing, and also on April the 4th. Which is also responding to RFPs and managing contracts. So please put those on your calendars, and if you can, make time to come out and participate in those training sessions as well. All targeted towards preparing you to be contract ready and performing work with one of the transportation agencies in the Northern California region. And last minute, as Kenji said, please fill out the surveys. They're very useful in identifying what needs to happen in the future going forward. Thank you.
Jennifer, thank you for joining us. Autumn, pleasure as always. We love having you here, and we love hearing about the opportunities that are out there. So again, thank you for joining us. We will share this information with everyone who's attended this event. And with that, I'd like to end our day, and we'll see you next week. So thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.